So today we kind of reviewed HTML and CSS. Friday we went through the HTML CSS lecture, reviewed the different properties, select different selector types, like the IDs, classes, and then overall tags as well. But today we're going to cover utilizing JavaScript, incorporating JavaScript into your HTML page. So I've got this empty directory that I just created, delete HTML JavaScript for today's lecture. I'm going to create an index.html file. Oh, I got to touch index. ls, I'm going to code index.html. Okay. We have code snippets in VS Code. If I wanted to create the overall architecture of an HTML file, all I really have to do is click HTML. We got this stuff that comes up.
Oh, cool.
So we've got, I'm going to use boilerplate. There we go. We got like our core architecture of HTML. It has a lot of comments out. You don't really need any of this stuff. It's fine. This is just basic stuff that is in the head. That's depends on like the browser compatibilities, is with screen readers and stuff like that. Really don't need description. Viewport. This is just like default stuff. And then if we wanted to link to an external style sheet, this is where we would link relationship style sheet. Then if we created clear, it's like ls, if I want to create a styles.css file, styles.css file, it'd be here. Then we also, in the body, we have the script. And this is the source. If we wanted to inject JavaScript directly into our web HTML file, I don't know, on Friday, Mike was doing his JavaScript in here. But if you wanted to link it to another file, this is where we do it. Script. We have a source attribute, and this is where we would link it to. So I'm going to create another JavaScript file. I'm going to create a JavaScript file called app.js. I'm going to code app.js. So I've got a directory with an HTML file, a CSS file, and an app.js file. And in here, the script tag, it's on the bottom here, and I know on Friday, Mike said, like, put your JavaScript in this tag at the very end, because when the page loads, it'll load all your JavaScript first. But these two attributes, async and defer, essentially it says defer the script tag, just defer loading this until the web page pretty much loads. Essentially, that's what it means. And this async as well means try to run all the code asynchronously if possible. But we can keep it down. Well, let's keep it up here. So I just want to create a button that alerts me. It's like says something. So how do I create a button in HTML? Button. Click me. Okay. So I'm going to actually open. How do I open an HTML file in a terminal?
Just use a open keyword.
Open index. All right. Cool. I just want to, so click me, and it doesn't really do anything. This is what the default button looks like.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to show you, before I totally get started, I want to show you some web pages that incorporate CSS, JavaScript, and just different attributes. So notice how, I'm going to refresh this page, rollpark.us. As I slide down, see how all the transitions that's all CSS, including JavaScript. It knows that where the viewport is, like on the screen, to when to initiate a specific CSS style. Stripe has a good one. This uses some libraries too. Let's go to Enterprise. This is pretty cool. This is all JavaScript, CSS, and libraries.
Oh,
So as you scroll down, it changes. And nothing really changes. And then if I decide to, you know, North America, changes the country, the United States. And now it's, everything's from the United States. This is my personal profile or personal website. It's got some JavaScript in there, like it snaps to the top of the screen, stuff like that. And that's all just vanilla JavaScript type stuff. Another one, let's see. Does anybody know what a Chrome extension is? So this is just a Chrome extension I made over the weekend. It's called Caveat. What?
You made this?
Yeah, over a weekend. So if I type in, so this is my Chrome extension. I just activated it. This is all HTML. It's actually in React. The button's actually broken now. I gotta fix that. But this is, if I type in headphones, my Chrome extension will actually manipulate the DOM, like the change, and actually change the Google web page. That's using JavaScript to target specific elements on Google's homepage. Yeah.
$692 million. Now, these are government subsidies?
Yeah, federal, state, and government. Yeah. So that's just, then, yeah. So you can use JavaScript to do a lot and manipulating the web page. So here we go, back to the click me. I want a button. Now let's actually style this button first. Code, styles, CSS. So for this button, what do we want? Do we want a class name and ID? Let's do ID, alert me. And here, how do I target an ID?
Hashtag.
Hashtag alert. Me. Let's make this width, 20%. That's kind of a big height. Make it 100 pixels. Yeah. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. I'm going to refresh this page and see what happens. Not doing anything.
You used semicolon.com.
Semicolons.
Isn't it common?
Semicolons. So maybe I have to import
That's
styles. There we go. That's a big button. Maybe I want to also change some stuff. Background color. Kind of like what we did before. What is it? Let's change the. I also want to change the hover state. Oh, geez. Hashtag alert me.hover. What do I want? The background color. Actually, I want to change this color. No, I don't like Berrywood. Let's do there we go. Background color. I want it to change darker. There we go. Let's see if this works.
You gotta change your, I think your ID alert.
Thank you. There we go. I'm gonna change just the color of the font. So white, let's do white. There we go. I don't like that blue outline.
Yeah.
See this blue outline?
Yeah.
I don't like that. The outline? None. There we go. It got rid of that blue outline. Okay. Now, in my JavaScript, is that right? File, got my app.js file. How can I go about when I click this, I want an alert to pop up on the screen.
Okay.
The first thing I do, I have to import my app.js file. So I imported in the script tag, there's a source element equals the path to my JavaScript file. Doing async, let's see what this actually says. I'm gonna cover over it. This is a Boolean attribute indicating that the browser should, if possible, load the script asynchronously. Cool. What's the defer? So meant to execute after the document has been parsed. So what does that mean, the document has been parsed? Yeah. So the overall web page, think of this entire thing as an object. It's called the document object model, and we're going to go into it more in detail. But let's see something. I press Command-Option-I, bring up developer tools. There's my button, all this stuff. I can add attributes. Where's my CSS? There's my CSS down here. It's got a default. Where is it? There it is. And this is all just like the default styling of the button in general, of the button tag. And in order to see my JavaScript file, I'm going to sources. I guess I don't have, it's not in there yet. But if I wanted to, in my console log, hello, Juliett Platoon. Now if I'm gonna refresh this, it's gonna load the index HTML file. Gonna come down to the source script. It's gonna see the app.js JavaScript file. It's gonna load the app.js, run like the code in this file. And in the console is where all our JavaScript is gonna show up. So if I refresh this, there we go, got hello or Juliett Platoon. It says it's coming from the app.js file from line 1. And here, this is just like a text editor. I can assign variables and everything like that. So the document object model, if I just type in document, you see all these like document, dot, and then here are all these methods off the document. So when I click this element, click this button element that has an ID of alert me, I want, from my JavaScript, I want to write a method that grabs this element and executes a function. So I'm just going to how to grab an element, an HTML element in JavaScript. Ooh, JavaScript DOM elements. That's kind of cool. Teach you how to find and access HTML elements on a page. So finding HTML elements by ID. Look, we have this example, document get element by ID. So this finds an example, an element with an ID of intro. Document get element by ID. I'm gonna go try that out. So in here we have a paragraph that says hello world. This example demonstrates the get element by ID method. And then in our script, which is also our JavaScript file, get element by ID with the ID as intro, my element, so it's assigning it to a variable. And then it's saying get element by ID demo right here. It's just an empty paragraph tag. Dot inner HTML. So right now it doesn't actually have inner HTML equals this text from the intro page plus my inner HTML. Let's just run this. Did it do anything?
Yeah. So the bottom line of text is actually generated and inserted into the paragraph ID.
Yep. So this is that paragraph ID. If I comment this out or delete it, I don't even know if I can do it. It's no longer there. But then when I run the script, it's going to get this element by the ID intro.
And then assign.
And then it's, yeah, then make it equal to, oh yeah, okay, hello world. So it's taking this element, assigning it to a variable.
So if you change the content of the ID, the paragraph ID intro, you can actually change the other text.
Yeah. So I did hello world again. There we go. So there's ways we can manipulate the web page using document.get doing something. So let's look at different, get element by ID, we have find element by tag name, by class name, get elements by class name. So there's like a bunch of different ones. Where is it? Cool. So if I wanted to, I'm in here, if I wanted to get the button ID, how do I get the button ID in JavaScript?
Oh,
I'm in JavaScript right now.
oh, sorry. Get ID.
But-
Get element by ID or something?
Yeah, so I'm in here,
Document
get,
dot,
so here we go.
ID.
I'm just gonna copy this and do get element by ID, alert me. Alert me. And I'm just gonna print, what is X? I'm gonna,
You're
that's not, I
doing, sort of our-
don't have to, but yeah. So I'm gonna print, what is button? I don't know what kind of, like what's gonna actually print out. So I'm gonna refresh this. Whoa.
You mean console.log?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Python, thank you.
It's trying to actually print it.
Yeah, so print is an actual method that will,
That's cool. So what you do is you set things on that, you start printing. The computer and then on your web page, it starts coming out. Like,
so here is what the button is. That's what that variable is. The button. There we go. So that whole thing is a button element. Where am I at? Cool. Now on that click, when I click, where will it go? When I click this, I want it to perform an action.
Yep.
So how to perform How'd So when I click an element, how do I run a function in JavaScript? Oh, we got these on-click events. What does this do? So button on click, my function.
Oh, it all goes in
Could. Could do that. We could. So I guess we can have an on click inside the method and run a function. Interesting.
And what cases do you want to do with an HTML versus doing that?
You're more often than not going to use an on-click event, like something like this. But there's other ways to do it too. So right here, look, it says add event listener. You can add an event listener
Oh, that's cool.
and then run a script. Let's see what this does.
That one up there.
The on-click.
Oh, on click. Object.onClick and run a function. Let's see what that looks like.
So you like alert me that.
In this case, button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's it.
The object.
Button.onClick. And then what? Then it runs a function. I just want to see what this does. You click me, enter HTML. Let's run this. Cool. So this one, I want to run a function. I can do function.
It's called button.onClick equals. You don't have to read this.
Equals.
And then create a function. Add a real function.
Yeah, I'm doing ES6 and then alert.
Oh, I'm trying.
What?
Somebody's
I'm
trying
to the computer.
Are they still, I don't even know how to spell it. This or
EXOR.
XO.
EXOR. CISF.
Somebody's familiar with the term.
So let's run this. Hello, Juliett Platoon. There we go.
Yeah, exercise the buttons.
Let's see if let's see if an on-click event works as well. Do on-click. Again. Let's write a function. Let some function. Call it a click function. Equals function alert. I click again. Let's see if this works. If I invoke, do I have to do that? Let's look at the examples. Event listener click, on click. So it doesn't look like I need to invoke it in here.
So it seems like it would be maybe faster.
So click function. I got 2. Click me again. Like nothing happens.
Let's read through the said view of the example.
That's
Right. See.
here, HTML. Oh, so in here it does invoke it. Let's try that again. There we go. So that's JavaScript. You can change elements. You can even get element by ID and change colors and stuff like that. So you can even run, let's do an input. Input. Is that?
No, yeah,
No. I'm going to hold off and do an input. Does anyone have any questions using JavaScript? Now, what if I wanted to grab a random letter and instead of alert, I'm clicked again. I'm going to change this to grab random letter. And I want this function to pick a random letter. How do I grab a random letter from the alphabet?
You gotta import random.
That's in Python.
That's Python.
So let alpha, let letter equals, or just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. That's it, I don't care. I want to grab a random letter out of a,
You could break down the string as a array,
You can read it as an array already.
or you can
Yeah.
split
You
it.
can treat it as an array, so you can. What's the syntax?
Return.
return, math, or how do I pick a random?
Yes, math.rand.
Is it like math.floor or math.random? Is it math? Math.random picks a number between 0 and 1.
And you have
It's a length.
You gotta be math.floor, math.floor, parentheses, math.random.
Say that one more time. Hold on.
Math.floor, parentheses, math.random,
And
times whatever number,
letter.
times letters.
Length.
Is it like that or like that?
And that'll just give you the number,
Yeah. And
and you need one more parentheses at the end.
you can just say that's like the number is equal to that.
So this is like the index, right?
Yeah.
So
Index.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
So our alert, let's actually alert. So this is just a function that picks a random letter within this string just for demonstration purposes, and it alerts, picks a random letter, and then it's going to alert.
You're gonna potentially have a length is one more than the maximum index.
So right here, when I'm clicking it, it's actually grabbing a random letter.
I don't know because exclusive. Because you're giving the floor and then you're turning it.
So, yeah.
Excluding one.
So we're able to perform logic when we're grabbing specific items from the DOM, from the web page, and perform logic, JavaScript logic, stuff like that. So if I had like an input, what is it? Input. How does the input work? Let's look at the input element. I don't know if there's an input HTML tag. I don't know if there's a closing one.
So is this why there's not a good input already built into JavaScript?
Well, there is.
Well, yeah. Well,
It's just input. The input only works through not through the console, but through popping up an input box and then type things in.
So I just got this input. Oh, Jesus. Okay, that's submit. Is it input? There we go. Here's a submit button. So when I like on click or click enter, decide to click a button with JavaScript, I'm able to grab this value and do something with it. Like when I'm clicking a submit button. So let's actually, no, let's not do that. Type input submit. I don't like the value. how about whatever I type in here, I want to alert. CSS. Let's actually wait on that. In the curriculum, they'll kind of tell you. So that's how we use JavaScript in the web page, in web pages, interacting with the web page and manipulating the DOM, document object model, which we'll cover more tomorrow. This is how we import our JavaScript file. Import it in the script tag, source equals the path name, async defer. This is how we link to our style sheet file. Then in our JavaScript file, automatically runs anytime the HTML page, every time the HTML page loads. What questions do you have so far? Yep.
Yeah, I've seen this a little bit.
All right. So in our lecture, we reviewed HTML, the HTML tag architecture. We have our link, source CSS style sheets, our app.js. What else we got? Just some more review about elements and tags. Here's basic HTML tags that you'll use. Here's a list of them. This is a good list of like popular tags, formatting. You'll be using divs a lot as well. Here's our forms and inputs. Input, form, button, text area. A select button defines a drop-down select. We have options, defines an option in a drop-down select.
Oh, would that be like when somebody starts typing in state? It goes to that point, drop down?
It'd be like if you're saying select your countries,
Yeah.
click the bit list and then it pops up with full list of countries.
Yeah, but what's the option?
That's like the actual options of, let's look at it. Look at it. So you have the select, and then within the select, child.
I got you.
Just try it.
You can't even type it. It's just
Yeah. So that's just different ones. Let's go through difference between ID and class. So here's a good exercise that you guys are going to be doing today. So how do we know what tags to use and where they go when you're actually like designing a web page and stuff like that? Has anybody heard of wireframing or boxing? No. Wireframing, instead of just going into your HTML file and start messing around and like designing while you're coding, wireframing is a good exercise to get like a snapshot of what your website should look like from just like a wireframe, just like the overall outline. It doesn't have to include actually any real text or values or anything like that. So in here's just like a basic template of a website that's probably pretty commonly used. We have a login, we have a support enterprise feature. Now, if I were to box this out or wireframe this out, I remember Mike on Friday was saying like everything's a box. So if I were to box this out or wireframe it, what would this website look like? If I look down below, everything is a box. So these four things, individual are elements or tags, are a box. And then together they're a box because they all kind of have the same feature. So they're all right here. And then this one, where it says company 8 would be its own standard box. And then this pricing and like the short paragraph underneath it would be one big box. And then each individual element would be a box itself. So that's what represents right here. And same with the 3 cards. This whole thing is one big box. And then it breaks down into a smaller box. And then a smaller box on top. And then like 5 other boxes for each one of these. And then we have a button right here. And that's how, so like getting a piece of paper and just like wireframing out. And then once you're done with this, it's good to kind of like label what element should be there, what tag you should use, like a button, a link, or something like that. A div. Most likely the ones that encapsulate multiple boxes, like this one right here, it's just like a div, yeah. And same with like this big one right here. Yes, oh, and then like this right here would also be a div. Or, yeah, so, or like, you can separate it by like a nav. It doesn't necessarily have to be a div, or it can be a section, but yeah. Like there's a nav tag that like lets the user know that that's like a navigation.
The only thing that makes something a button is just the fact that you can click on it. So it could be a button and a link at the same time, essentially.
Yeah. So this is just kind of a quick example of just the top nav bar of this. We have a body, we have a nav, which is a parent, and we have the company name, and we have a div with like paragraphs and then a button. If you want to keep going, and this is essentially what we did today, create an alert button, get element by ID, it's on click. And here are other examples of get element by ID. So Mozilla Developer Network, or Mozilla Development Network. Get, class name. There's a bunch of them, other document object properties and methods. Here's our pretty active elements. Where we got? We have create attribute, create comments. Where are some? Here's all the get elements by. Query selector, select all. So. And then the Chrome Dev Tools, I kind of went over. You should be using this all the time, like especially when debugging. So in this thing right here, I'm gonna for front end errors. What the hell is it? If I do something that's like an error, like I don't even know. How do I screw this up?
Instead of console.log.
Hard code the length instead of and make the length long.
I'm actually going to do that and see what happens. I took that off. I'm going to refresh it. Look, it says uncaught reference error. Console is not defined at app.js1. So this is where a lot of your front end errors, this is where you'll be debugging when things don't work properly, is in the console, in the developer tools. Let's look at the source. And here's my source tab.
And you can't edit in there. You can just.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to edit in here. If you're going to edit or just like try stuff out, well, there we go. So what this is doing is just literally doing like document dot, or just actually alerting. So if I type in window, this is what this whole thing is. It's the window. So you're able to access the current document of the web page by just typing in document. See how like the whole document is highlighted? It's because that means that's what document is. Alert me? Is that the one, or was it alert button? Oh, whoops. That's not right. Yeah, that's what that is. I'm just messing around now. So So let's go over your challenges for today. Your first challenge is a wireframing boxing exercise. Pair program or get with a pair or 3 or 4, like doesn't really matter. So yeah, grab 3 or 4, grab a piece of paper, a whiteboard, or if you're remote, when you get in your groups, use Google Slides. So you can collaborate together at the same time. Yep. And do a boxing or wireframe of like the following websites. This Week in Startups. Let's do Code Platoon as well. And HipCamp. So everything's a box. It'll be a box like here. And each one of these will be a box. This will probably be a separate box with like images right here. Yeah. What else we got? Code Platoon.
It's one of our goals for the week is actually the player wants to accept the groups.
Yeah. 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 So remote, some of you will pair or in a groups of 3 or 4 with some of the remote team or with some of the in-person team as well.
Cool.
So that's the one challenge. So just wireframe these images. You don't have to do the entire website. Just do like the front page, like right here. Just use this and wireframe it or box it and see. Then your next challenge will be guess a number. You're going to be creating a website with HTML, CSS, as well as JavaScript.
Cool.
And in the challenge says, implement HTML elements that use specific attributes to perform actions. You're going to be using IDs and classes, and you're going to use JavaScript to interact with your web page. And then you can use HTML or DOM methods like the get element by class name or get element by ID to change, delete, or add elements to your web page. So yeah, read documentation. This is what you're gonna have to read to build like the document methods, like the get elements and everything. So the requirements, the user should be able to guess a number between 1 and 100. So a user, so automatically in JavaScript, it's gonna pick a random number between 1 and 100, and the user has to guess that number. So the user should be able to continue guessing the number until they get the right number. The user should be able to input a number and click a button to submit the answer. And then at that point, some JavaScript's gonna run, test whether or not that number is higher or lower, and inform the user on the web page to guess a higher number, guess a lower number, or tell the user that they guessed the number correctly. The web page should also list all the guessed numbers as the user is guessing during the session. So I guess 10, the 10, there should be a list, literally a list of 10 should show up. And then you keep guessing it until you guess the right number. Here's kind of some, just some like starter stuff. Your JavaScript file will automatically run when your HTML file loads in the web browser. So, like random number, should pick a random number and assign it to a variable. So when the user types in an input box, or it's just like a select dropdown if you want to do that, and it clicks a button like submit, some JavaScript will run and test whether or not that value that the user submitted is the correct number. And then then it's supposed to change, especially change the web page, like guess lower, guess higher. So insert HTML elements. You have create element, create text node, append child, research what that is. And here are some additional resources to get you there. Kind of already went through that. On click events, we went through that again. So when you click the button, you click submit your button, kind of how we did, it should like target an input tag and what the value of that is, which is the user's guess number, and then run a function that checks whether or not that number is the right one or not. So that's it today. What questions do you have regarding this challenge? Just so don't worry so much about the CSS styling for that challenge. Make it work first and then go back and pretty it up. So, Remote, what questions do you have about JavaScript interacting with the web page? Nothing? So let's take a break and then get into groups of 3 or 4. Remote team, you'll be also pairing with or in a group with someone from the in-person. And you guys can use like Google Slides to do the wireframing. And for the guess a number, just work in pairs. Don't work in groups of 4 or 3 or 4.
Let's do it. So far we've agreed it's us 3 plus 1.